Obviously, I think it's the 5th day of the Rugby World Cup. It was only one game that happened today. I'm just going to open it up on the screen here. Let's add it to the screen. We had Samoa playing Russia. It was an interesting game. I thought Russia was really there, or thereabouts, for the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes. They were there. Hey, Modernbach. They were there. But then, then the floodgates seemed to open, and they just went absolutely berserk, the Samoans, and they just scored tries from almost everywhere. So it was hell of impressive from the Samoan point of view. I was expecting a little bit more from the Russians. I thought they played okay in that first half, and when they near the end, I must admit, it was really quite disappointing that they didn't actually get that try, because I think they thoroughly deserved to get the try in that game, but they just didn't seem to get it at all. Yeah, I agree with you, Molenbach. But it was entertaining. I'd actually gone in the morning to go walk some rescue dogs, and they had the stemp and all of that, so I actually got to watch the game live, and so that was pretty cool. But it's just a pool game. Not two big heavyweights in world rugby going up against each other. Russia, the way that they performed against Japan was admirable, but a 4-day turnaround they're never going to be anything to write home about. They were going to be completely tied, and they were. I did like their one scrum. It was quite amazing, their one scrum, where they actually got full dominance in that scrum. It was absolutely amazing, and I think their scrum was about 50 kilograms lighter, if I'm not mistaken. I've actually got the stats here. I might as well just go through the stats while I'm here. Yeah, I'm on a block. I'm going to actually discuss the cards separately, because those 2 yellow cards were interesting, to say the least. So I think I'm going to leave it as a special topic in the next 5 minutes. But looking at the stats for the game, I think 511 run meters to 247, so that's double the run meters. They actually had more of the possession in the territory, the Russians, than the Samoans. The big thing that was for defending for Russia, 56%. You're never ever going to win a game if you've only got 56% tackle completion. I think the Samoans were at 85%. They did a hell of a lot of tackles, 150 tackles as opposed to 99. That's a lot of extra tackling that the Samoans had to do. So it looks like the Russians were right there on the line. And maybe if they could just have that killer instinct, I think maybe they don't really have a really good attack coach, because it was getting a little bit one-dimensional, and they just could not crack it. And every time they started running out of ideas, they'd kick it, and then that's like suicide against Samoa. Great offloading team. And penalty count was pretty similar. I'm going to discuss the yellow cards separately, because I think there's a lot more happening with those yellow cards than anything else. And no, this is not going to be a ref bashing session. I think there's more than enough of that happening around out there. But I think so too. Modenbach. But I'm just gonna. But overall, it was an entertaining game. The only game tomorrow is Fiji versus Uruguay. I've put Fiji to win this game by 9. Might be a little bit different, but I think they've done 12 changes, or 10 to 12 changes, the Fijians. So it's not their starting side that's going to be doing it. I've actually got the Uruguay stats here in front of me. They've never beaten a Tier 1 nation ever. Argentina, they've played 42 times and never won. Fiji, they've played 3 times and never won. But like I said, they've never beaten a Tier 1 nation, not even like the New Zealand 15, which is not the All Blacks. So they've never beaten that. So I think they're going to find it quite difficult. You have to know that Uruguay are my Tier 2 team for the tournament. I say that fast after I have a few drinks. So they're my Tier 2 team, and I'm supporting them. So that's why I've been looking up in their history. I've been looking at their world rankings at 19. I was actually looking at some of their players. None of their players play for established clubs or franchises or anything like that. One or two play in France, but they play in second division. So yeah, we're talking. This is going to be and a lot of their players are local, which I think is quite nice. So yeah, that is my team. So I'm going to start learning everything I can about Uruguay and become a little bit of not a fundi, but try to know a little bit more about the side. But yeah, I was looking at their rankings. I was looking at the rankings, were quite interesting. I think after about 15th spot, it really drops off quite drastically. After about Tonga, because then you're looking at. Okay, Samoa is not bad. I should include Samoa at 16th spot, but then he's dropping down to Spain, Romania, Uruguay, Russia, Portugal, Canada, and Namibia. So you're going much further down. Nations that we don't really, for fun or connection. No, just for absolute fun. I just thought, you know what? Hey, Joe's. No, not yet, Joe. We haven't discussed the cards yet. I've actually got that as a completely separate topic because there's a hell of a lot coming out from World Rugby about refs. So I thought we'd just keep that as a separate topic. So yeah, but for my game tomorrow, I put Fiji to win by 9. I think they might win by a hell of a lot more. Even though Uruguay is my side, I've got to have a little bit of a reality check and see what. And I'll still support my side, Uruguay, but I still think Fiji is going to be way too strong for anything for them. But what I'm going to do now is I've actually written some topics here and some banners. Okay, so the first one I've got is both are really part of each other. So the first one, it says, "Will Rugby throw refs under the bus?" which I think is the absolute truth. And then, was it red or yellow today? And I think that's the two big questions that we have at the moment. Like, yeah, I think so too. I think Fiji's going to be a really big game. I don't see them getting past Wales though. That's beyond a joke. I agree with you, Joe. I thought it was a red card every day of the week. And if it was a Super Rugby game or a Pro 14 game or even a Top 14 game, that would have been a red card. It really would have been a red card. The only thing I'm going to disagree with, I'm going to say that the second card wasn't a red card. And there's a logic that I've got for this. Is we always talk about consistency with refs, and he was consistent. The first one he made a yellow, the second one was almost identical, and he made that a yellow too. So great for Roman Poix, I think that's how you pronounce it. He was consistent. But yeah, I thought it was a red. Just looking at how that impacted was directly to the head, and even if there's no intent, direct to the head is a red card. We know that it's been driven into us from World Rugby that's the way it's supposed to be. The other thing is that World Rugby throwing the players, the refs under the bus. And why I'm saying that, I have staff that work for me, and I can say anything about my staff. I can scream and shout at them, and I can do the disciplinaries, and I can do all of that. But when anybody else starts picking on my staff, then that's it. I'm there to protect my staff from them, from people outside there in the big bad world, and it's my job, because they're my staff, to deal with the public and the client and all of that, and then transfer that knowledge to my employee. That's what I believe. When you have somebody who's employing you and you're protecting your staff, you don't throw people under the bus, and you especially don't throw the people that you employ under the bus. So that's my opinion on that. I do think that there has to be something has to happen with the refereeing, but I just think the games are so fast. How much did I put this on the thing so everyone can see it? Could be a case of organisers dictating cards and policy. Yeah, I don't know. It was a strange one, because when he went through that whole thing, it was a red card, and the TMO talked him into saying, well, maybe he was dipping, which is a mitigating circumstance. But I watched a game. I think it was South Africa playing Australia in the Rugby Championship in that first game in South Africa. And I was so angry about the tackle technique that these young guys, these young props had from Australia. And the tackle technique was they were going up to Ibn Etzebeth and tackling from the front, right there in the knees coming this way. And 2 of the guys went off with HRAs. And I actually thought, these guys aren't being taught how to tackle properly. And for me, it's a similar kind of thing that the guys, even though the guy was dipping, he was still tackling way up here with shoulder, no arm leading. Anything could happen and hit the guy in the head. The other thing that pissed me off in this game, exactly. I agree with you. I agree with you there 100%. It's at the end of the day, it's not about intent. It's about protecting the players on the field. A lot of the Russian players tackle at the knees, which is just as dangerous for concussion. A lot of the Samoans were tackling way high, which any little slip, you're going to hit somebody in the head. But what pissed me off as well was the number 15 from Russia was hit twice in the head. Twice. He had contact to the head, and he never went off. He was not taken off for an HRA. Now, I can understand the Samoan guy going off for the HRA because he literally was out. You could see he passed out. Even if it's for a second, that's it. You're out of the game. But they never took the 15 off, and nobody took the 15 off the field. And for 2 yellow cards for contact to the head, and the guy doesn't get taken off, that just seems a little bit suspect to me. And it just goes to show that maybe, I know that the stadiums have their own doctors and things like that, but maybe they need to have more control over the HRA policies, because obviously maybe Russia didn't want to lose their 15 off the field. He was playing really well. But yeah, 2 contacts to the head, that should be an HRA. I don't know what you guys think. Yeah, exactly. I just, even though he stood up and he looked fine, I just think first time, yes, okay, I can understand it. Second time, please go off the field, have your HRA, and then come back, because he did look fine. But it just seems like there's a lot of this thing happening with this HRA, and we had to protect our players. Yeah. One thing I must admit, the whole time I was watching that game, you could hear the crowd. Just it must be Russian, I'm not sure, but they were chanting for their side. Yeah, I agree. I agree with you 100%, Chief. But coming back to the crowd, it was somebody was chanting, or the crowd was just chanting Russia, 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 especially when they were just about to score. Yeah, I just think there needs to be more control, to have a centralized doctor that actually looks at the game and then looks at what's happening on the field. And if somebody has any contact to the head, that it gets dealt with. So I think instead of us looking at the score of this game, because we did think that Samoa was going to win, because of the turnaround time for Russia, and B, Russia are quite far down compared to Samoa. Actually, Russia's only 20th in the world, and only 4 points behind Samoa. So yeah, I just think we can take this game as a great example of HRA policy, and how best to implement HRA, and how we should protect the players a lot more. But yeah, another thing comes down to tackle technique, that Russians were tackling way too low. Some of the tackles were way too high, and we need to start teaching the guys to tackle, in the midriff, obviously where the softer belly parts are. Because the HR, I'm sure I could stand under correction, but concussion comes more from the person doing the tackling as opposed to the person being tackled. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's what it is. It's all about tackle technique. Yeah, I know. Samoa against Tonga. That could be that could be a pretty heavy game. But I'm just going to check what other banner I had here. The other one was, I was reading in the news, Johnny Sexton sitting out in training. Concern or just player management? I think it's player management. He may have a little bit of a niggle, and he's the kind of player you have to have for the quarterfinals. You have to. He has to be around to be at the quarterfinals for the knockouts. So they're just managing him. That's what I think. They're just managing him, and he's just sitting out in training for that. But I do think he has a niggle. I'm not, he wouldn't sit out of training because he's special. I just think he's got a niggle. I don't know what's been written in the Irish news. I've just got this from Rugby Pass. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, Joe. I don't think it's an injury. I just think it's a concern. Same as what Box says. I just think it's a concern that they're just trying to keep their players a little bit fresh and available for the quarters, because obviously they have a really big game in the quarters, and it's going to really determine who. I honestly feel could really determine who makes it all the way to the final, because whoever wins that quarterfinal game will obviously get the momentum to carry on in the game. I think theoretically they'll probably play Wales next, which is going to be a bloody hard game, and depending on the England-New Zealand game, could be. But yeah, I also think maybe if we spoke about what's going to happen in the quarters for the next 2 weeks, I think we'd end up having a heart attack and getting completely worked up about stuff that hasn't even happened. Maybe we should just focus in on the pool games for now. And once we get to the week before the quarters, when things are starting to look a little bit more settled, maybe then we'll talk about it, because the permutations and what's going to happen could be quite an intense conversation between us all. The last thing I wanted to chat was, and this was, I thought this was kind of strange, Schalk Brits to lead the Springboks from 8. And I thought, jeepers, am I reading this correctly? I like Schalk Brits. I've liked Schalk Brits for years, playing in the Premiership. I think he is probably one of the best hookers that's ever played the game. And we don't really get to see him a lot in South Africa. You actually have to watch a lot of Premiership rugby and European rugby. Yeah. No, I just think, Joe, if we spoke about it every single day, I think we'd be really sick and tired, and maybe what's that saying? We'd miss the forest for the trees, because we'd miss all the. I see. Yeah, but that's what it said in the news. Schalk Brits to play from number 8. I just thought I saw this and I went, what? No, he's leaving the Bulls, Modern. He only played for 1 year. He obviously is retiring. I think he's going into the corporate world. Good on him. But yeah, I think he is leaving the Bulls. But yeah, that was what I saw. But looking at that, then they'd probably play Kwagga Smith, play Francois Lowe on the other side. They probably play Achilles Name and Lure to start. They play Beast, Bongi and Manambi, and probably Vincent Koch at 3. The backline would be, I don't think he'd start Yankees. What's his Kobus Reinach, start Kobus Reinach. Elton Yankees. Inside centre would be Frans Steyn. Maybe still play Laconia Arm. Sabun Corsi on 14, probably play Mapimpi to keep him back in form, and Galante at back. Yeah, I think for the Namibian game, I think that's going to be the case. But I think for the Italian game, I think it's going to be all guns blazing. But yeah, that's all that's happening in World Rugby today. Like I said, there's not a hell of a lot happening on tomorrow either. It's just that one game. And I think on Thursday, there's no games at all. Actually, it was quite strange, Monbok. There's another rugby channel I follow. I saw Joe was actually listening to them, Good for the Game. And they had a guy that really is into the stats, and I think he's got the inside track. And it actually was shown that New Zealand did, I think it was about 20% more kicks than South Africa. It's just theirs was a little bit more accurate. So from the 9, from the base, yeah, that's it, Joe, Brendan. And from the base, it was pretty interesting. It's really nice to actually hear from someone who actually just deals in the stats side of it. And it was quite nice to see that. And he was talking about the kicks, and we all thought that Faf was kicking a lot, but he actually was kicking less than what Aaron Smith was kicking. And it's just Aaron Smith's kick was perfect. And they were talking, I think it was Nick Mallett was saying that, if you're going to kick 20 meters ahead of you, then you must kick 20 meters up. If you're going to kick 13, then you must kick 30 meters up. And if you're going to kick 50, you have to kick 50 meters up. So you have your runners that have the space. And I just don't think that Faf has that ability Am I still there? Let me just get rid of this. Yeah, I'm still there. I'm just going to remove this from the stream, so I just save on bandwidth. So I just don't think Faf has the ability yet to be able to pinpoint his kicks. Yeah, exactly. It's about the hang time, and you've got to give your players enough time to come back. And that's why when they go deep and flat, it's like suicide. It's like handing the ball to the opposition and giving them time to actually make decisions. And that's our whole defensive structure is based around avoiding or limiting decision time for our opposition. That's the way we play. We have that rush defense, so the guys are under pressure. They make the wrong decisions, or they don't have enough time to make the decisions. And if you kick it flat and long, you're going to end up it's going to be a long day at the office, because it just gives the opportunity for like the really good outside backs, the Reeses. Who's the one Irish, Stockdale? Like, that gives them so much time to actually make really good decisions. You can imagine doing a long flat kick to Cheslin Colby. It's just suicide. Yeah, exactly. And exactly, it's about that. It's about getting the hang time on the ball. So a box kick can be the most devastating weapon out there, but it has to be used in the right way. And if FAF is not using it in the right way, then they should change the tactics for the game. But coming back to that, I just don't think South Africa play that kind of rugby. We play a set kind of structured kind of rugby, which is fine. That's how we play. That's how we're happy to play. And we don't play that heads up kind of make decisions or change our plans quite quickly. But that's okay. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, I'm hoping that the next game against Namibia, we rack up a really good score, get at least a bonus point victory, at least 40, 50 points on Namibia. I hope we do fairly similar with our strongest team against Italy, and so the next couple of games we need to get 30, 40 scores. It's just an absolute given. I'm just going to go through here quickly just so I can see what nice big game is coming up next. England USA could be quite an interesting game. Italy Canada could be. I don't think would be as interesting as England USA, but I think England also playing. Welcome, sharpshooter. Agree. SA thrives on set pieces and dominating forwards. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just think that's our DNA. Our DNA is based around that. Is set pieces and things like that, and it's difficult for us. And even though we've got these amazing backs like Ches and Colby, in any team in the world would be scoring. Imagine seeing Ches and Colby playing inside and Anton Leonard-Brown. The guy would be in space all the time. So, but at the same token, I think Am is an exceptional 13, and I just think he needs more time. I think he's only at 10 caps. So I think when he hits about 20, 25 caps, I think he's going to understand the structures so much more. And I honestly feel South Africa is still about 10, 20 tests away from being at their peak. That's my honest opinion. When we've got our defense sorted out, our wingers now have 20 to 30 caps. They understand the structures, when to come in, when not to come in. And I think that's what we're lacking at the moment, is just experience. Yeah, I agree. I think that's where we thrive, Joe. I think we do thrive in those more tight games. And generally, we've always had an exceptional kicker that whenever we get a penalty or something like that, we get those 3 points. We kick for territory. We just grind out teams, and that's how we play. Not exciting. It's not going to rock the world, but if you want to watch rocking the world kind of rugby, then watch like a Mitre 10 game, because that's offload central. It's like such unstructured, great, beautiful rugby. I was looking when Rassie joined, and he got a 6-year contract, and that it just goes to show that I think his planning is based around 2023. That's what I honestly believe, and I'm not saying this as an excuse of us not performing in this World Cup. I'm just saying, based on the 6-year contract, the way he's come in, he wasn't going to be Springbok coach, and then he had to be Springbok coach. So yeah, it's I think the planning has been for 2023. But I think he's turned around the team quite quickly and got us back to what our DNA is, that we can compete at this one. Great to see the All Blacks win a tough game against the Box. Yeah, I thought, hey, Bran's my brother-in-law. He actually has been on the show. I'll actually get him on the show maybe on one of these Thursdays. Again, if I feel like letting him on. But yeah, I'll let him come chat. But I'm thinking of making my Thursday show a little bit more entertaining, a little bit more enjoyable. But yeah, that was the World Cup today. I actually didn't think I had 25 minutes of talking in me, but it seems like I did. Thanks everyone for joining in on the channel. But yeah, I think we need to take a deep breath with the refs and just say, phew, let's let it all out. We've had a bit of frustrations. I'm sure they're going to have their hands slapped, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more on the ball going forward, because the rugby's only going to get faster as we progress in the competition. I just think I honestly feel we're not there yet. We're almost there, and I think in 2021, round about there, when just before the Lions come, so we can smash the Lions. That'd be the greatest feeling in the world, to smash the British and Irish Lions. I've got mostly British and Irish Lions supporters. So. But yeah, thanks again, guys, for joining. I will be around tomorrow to obviously discuss the game that happened yesterday. I am going to try watch that game live, even though I've got work on. I'll just sneak out to the lounge. I work from home, by the way, so I'll just sneak out to the lounge and have a squiz at the game, and just manage my clients' perceptions of me actually working. So yeah, guys, thanks again for everyone for joining in for the live chat. I've thoroughly enjoyed the live chats every day. It's just been really nice to actually just vent about what's happened in the day, and we can move on and be excited about the next game. But I think this weekend we've got some nice games coming up. I think on Saturday, Japan Island is going to be a nice game. Australia Wales. I think Joe put that in the comments. So yeah, I think Australia Wales on Sunday. I think that's the big game we're all going to be waiting for. I think that's the big game for the weekend. But yeah, guys, please, I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful week. Be kind to everyone, and if you go into any situation with a little bit of apprehension or anger or something like that, just try to treat everyone with love, and everything seems to sort itself out. Hey guys, I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful week. Chat soon. Cheers. Bye.